Hey guys, what's happening? It's Jess and BJ, and we're back with the YTP Mini. And we're going to do a quick riff on why it's so important to keep the mind awake and ready. So first of all, BJ, how do we keep the mind awake and ready?
Meditation. First and foremost, meditation.
Because meditation does what?
It slows down the thought process that has been placed on this pattern of repeated behavior. So when you repeat something over and over again, it becomes thoughtless, right? It just becomes an automatic behavior. So basically, like tying your shoes. Do you ever think about really tying your shoes anymore? It's just one of those things that it happens automatically. So what we do in meditation is we slow things down. Slow it down.
Why do we want to slow stuff down?
So we can observe and we can get in the space, this amazing space between stimulus and response. So the bigger question is, do you want to increase that space? Do you want to have the power back to choose and not be a victim? That's the important piece.
Yeah. In victimhood, there's no power. And when we get into that gap, we get our power back because we're choosing consciously. When we're living from those programs, then we're living really from the past, essentially.
Or the beliefs that we've reinforced over and over, which is the past.
So what you're saying is so through meditation, we're training the mind.
Yes.
And in that space, we get to watch the mind.
Yes.
And one of the places where I think people get really hung up or they just don't know what to do is in that place of unknown.
Fear.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's not certain. Because the mind, when it faces something unknown, like you start a meditation practice, it's going to resist. There's no catalog or file system that the mind can go look at that will shed some light on what's actually happening. And in that space, the mind is like, whoa, like what's going on? I do not know what's happening. This is the unknown. And in that moment, like we're talking about, you have the opportunity to make the unknown known. So everything that you know was once unknown.
And like the rules, like you got to know the rules, right? We have to know the rules, and we want to know what the Ironman plan is going to look like in 20 weeks. And so when we indulge the need to know, we risk something. What do we risk? Being lazy.
Yeah, absolutely being lazy.
Right? So what happens is, you guys, this is kind of how this is definitely how it works. So one of the first things I say to people when I start working with them about meditation is that they have to be willing to go beyond the limitations of their mind, because what we're diving into is beyond the limitations of the mind. A lot of people walk away. They try it, but they walk away because they can't get themselves out of the intellect. They can't get themselves out of the need to know what the benefits are and when they're going to see them and how to do it right. And if they're not doing it right, then they abandon it. And I see this all the time. And so what happens, you guys, is that we live in this body that's hardwired to stay safe and comfortable. So it wants the rules. It wants the meal plans. It wants the 20-week plan. It wants to know what is coming next, because then the mind we think that will allow the mind to experience peace. But really what's happening is that the mind gets this opportunity, and it will take it to be lazy, to not discover the unknown, to not walk bravely into the space where all the possibilities lie.
And that's why you need to question everything. And when you see opportunities, or you see the fear rise up, you see the unknown rise up, you immediately act on it. You just don't let the intellect, the mind jump in and analyze the situation. Just act on it. And it's you've created the habit to get to this point. It's really a habit. And a habit is just the beliefs that are repeated over time, or thoughts that are repeated over time. So we have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 90% of those are repeated every day. If you really want to change your habits, it's going to take time and it's going to take hard work, but it starts with the thought. that we just talked about, the space to see your thought come in that says, I don't know what this is. It's unfamiliar territory. I don't know how to respond to this, yet I have this inner feeling that I need to move forward. And you react to that. You don't react. You act on that hit. You act on that intuition, because your inner being always knows what's best for you. You're always going to be safe if you listen to that inner being. And what's happened is we've kind of layered over it. We've kind of like smothered it a little bit. And this is why the onion is such a great example. You know, you just keep putting the layers and layers and layers on top of it, but we need to peel that stuff back so we can make that decision to now begin changing the habits that we've created. And back to what I said, it started with a thought. So we got to go back to the root. We can't give you a meal plan. We need to understand what the thought process is when you decide to choose the foods that you're choosing. That's how you get to true change.
And I want to dive in just for a moment about the safety of the inner being. Like, you'll always be safe with the inner being. And that safety is a different definition than the safety that the mind or the human is hardwired to buy into, right? The safety of the inner being just welcomes all things. It's open to everything, attached to nothing. So safety, there's no such thing as safety. It just is. That there is nothing that the inner being fears. There is nothing that the inner being avoids. There is nothing that the inner being becomes lazy about, because the inner being knows exactly why you're here and what you came to do, which is to realize a life beyond limits.
And we've lost that connection with the inner being. Yeah, we've lost that connection. Yeah. So really what we're trying to do is just reestablish that connection. And you do that by reinforcing over time the space to make the right choices that allows you to keep momentum moving forward, to now create the habits that are going to move you to the goals that you want to achieve in life, that you always keep talking about that never get done.
I had an experience today at the coffee shop where I was writing, and I'm doing it in Google Docs, so it's just constantly saving it. And then all of a sudden I had like the spin thing happening, and I got disconnected from the Wi-Fi at the coffee shop. And I had this moment of I don't want to be disconnected, because what if it's going to lose what I don't want to be disconnected. Like, I don't want to be disconnected. And what if we took that approach to the fact that when we're disconnected from our inner being, oh my God, I'm moving from fear. I'm trying to find the rules. I'm risking laziness here. Like, whoa, I want to get reconnected. I got to plug back in. And that's what we do every day in meditation. Just plug back in. But you don't need a 45-minute meditation to plug back in. Yeah, what will plug you back in?
A few breaths. It's simply just, the key is to sit. First thing is to do it right when you wake up in the morning, because you've interrupted the process of the momentum that you created in the previous day. So you sleep, you have a clean slate, you wake up, sit quietly with yourself. Before you turn on the phone, before you make coffee or espresso, before you do any of that, sit still, take a few breaths, and right away you'll connect with yourself, your true self. You'll see thoughts, and you'll notice the thoughts and the urges, and you sit with those urges to do something, and you gain back that control that you're in power. You're in the power. Like, you control what goes on, not your thoughts. It's really quite simple. So we have our athletes do that too, just a few breaths.
Yeah.
For those that don't have a meditation practice already, just take a few conscious breaths.
Right. Like, if you train with us at Yogi Triathlete, you don't have to do an hour meditation every day. Some people are just doing a couple breaths.
You can go an hour.
And some people are doing an hour meditation. So it's wherever you're at, but reestablishing this connection with our powerful, all-knowing, limitless self it's the most valuable thing that you can do here as a human on this earth. And frankly, it's what our collective purpose is as mankind, is to reestablish that connection and live from that connection. So meditation, but just as important as meditation, is watching the mind throughout the day. Watch the mind, watch how it wants certainty. It wants certainty so it can just kind of kick back, go into the lazy boy and go through the motions. And that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to go through the motions. So awake and ready, guys.